morning, good afternoon, or good evening. This is Pamela, and you are watching Pam Entertainment TV, where we review movies, television series, and incidents in pop culture to see how those incidents may or may not affect our daily lives. Listen, let's do this today. Let's kind of go over the impact of this Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni lawsuit on public relations and public relation firms. Now, I got this. This is an idea that I thought about, but I have not like really fully explored it. And as I was doing all my videos, I came across this article. So let me share my screen real quickly and go over this article. We're going to do it, just go over this article in depth. And then I'm going to talk about, we're going to just really talk about this right here. How has Lively versus Baldoni changed public relations? And will PR firms and entertainers ever trust each other again? Do you think that they'll trust each other again? Because this is getting into the crux of how Hollywood moves and operates, but also about the perception of Hollywood. So let me stop sharing that, and let me share my screen. So here is the article that I was looking at. This is the article that I was looking at. It says Lively versus Baldoni, and it's written by James Hibbert, and it's from the Hollywood Reporter. And they wrote this on the 21st, which is today. It says here, Lively versus Baldoni has already changed Hollywood publicity forever. Now, if you saw my PowerPoint presentation, because I started this a while back, and I just was talking about it. I didn't have the portion of the part, will they trust each other again? Because I was going to do this later, but we may just come back and revisit this. But let's go over this article first, because I love it when my creative juices are going and people are on the same page. So let's look and see what the Hollywood Reporter is talking about. It says, with publicists caught in the crossfire in the industry's biggest scandal, insiders say the case has had an immediate impact on their business. And here's some quotations. There is zero protection for us, and it makes me afraid. Now, remember I reported earlier that the Sloan lady, who was the PR person for Blake Lively, she is wanting to be dismissed from the case. And I'm figuring, and I told you earlier before, I think that it has a lot to do with a lot of these PR firms are starting to reevaluate how they interact and what they do, and if their actions require anybody to sue. You see what I'm saying? Because when you look at these PR firms, their job is for their client is to overall, in my opinion, to alter public perception of their client's persona or whatever's going on, to try to change the tide, right? And so what we're finding out, is there are so many different mediums that they have to go through to be able to do this. You're talking about social media, you're talking about the news, you're talking about not only the news, but news publications and what's being shown on news shows. Radio, I'm not so much, unless you're talking about people who do podcasts and things like that. There's so many different now mediums in which public relations and PR people or public relation firms, PRFs, as I'm going to maybe calling them, they have to do in order to get people to be able to change the perspective of what they have been hired to do. So if you have an actor or someone in the entertainment business, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the entertainment business, it could be whatever they is, but we're going to talk about actors, singers, songwriters, whatever. You have someone in the entertainment business that has something that they want to change about their perception. They are responsible for making sure that perception is being switched and changed online, whether that be that they're paying blogs to be able to say something positive about it, or they're asking journalists to do newspaper articles about them, whether they're having their clients go on radios, talk shows, or things like that, and to discuss little different things, whether they show them doing their image in the public. Whether like that actor's image in the public showed them doing turkey drives or giving to the homeless or whatever this image that they're trying to do, and they have a finite amount of time to do it. So in other words, if let's say that we have a particular actor who has been seen out with a married woman, there is a finite amount of time to either bury that story, bury that photo, or to change or have this person do a PR relationship, as we call them out here in the news, where you see them with someone else and say, oh, that's their friend. They just had dinner together. They're friends, da 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 da. If they embraced or if they kiss, they're friends, to try to downplay it and then have him heavy petting over here with someone else that they've hired to do that, whether it be another actress, whether it be a IG model, whoever it is. Okay. So this is basically what they have to do. This is basically what their job is, right? And so now what you're seeing is there is a lot of uneasiness in Hollywood because of this lawsuit. Because of this lawsuit, there is so much uneasiness, and we're gonna again. Let's get through this article real quick. Listen. It says here, when they start to whack the lawyers, that's when I draw the line. And this fretted attorney Saul Goodman in an episode of Breaking Bad after one of his colleagues was murdered. So I don't know why I read that, because I thought that was I thought it was a quote from someone real. But it says a similar anxiety has now gripped Hollywood's publicity class amid the Justin Baldoni Blake Lively legal battle, in which several top PR names have become major players in a war that has riveted the town. According to several personal and studio publicists interviewed by Hollywood Reporter, the scandal has already changed how representatives who are not involved with the case operate. And this is probably going to be permanent. I would imagine. I would imagine that the total landscape is different, because if someone does their job too well, you got somebody who is going to sue. So this will change the personal publicist game forever, 100%, declares one veteran personal publicist. When a client says, I want you to protect my reputation and get ahead of the story, or I don't like that headline, can you call the reporter? You're going to be like, no way. What if what you're doing has ramifications for another celebrity? Now you're going to think that you could get sued. Take, for example, one of the claims in Baldoni's lawsuit, that Lively's publicist, Leslie Sloan, lobbied a Daily Mail reporter back in August to change a story. The reporter planned to write that an internal power struggle between Lively and Baldoni on their film It Ends With Us had resulted in the actress being labeled as difficult. Sloan insisted via text messages to the reporter, you have it all wrong. The whole cast hates Baldoni. Now, Sloan's efforts to change the story were allegedly successful, but as any reporter can attest, a publicist giving additional information on background to try to make a story more friendly to their client isn't some rare event, but extremely common. And one of the changes that I see that is going to happen is journalists are now going to have to, I guess now journalists are going to have to separate themselves. Are you a journalist, or are you, how is that going to work out? Let me back up. In my head, I am thinking now journalists are going to have to really sit down and get actual sources for their stories. And what I mean by that, my entertainers know, we have said clearly when we start reading different stories, written stories online, on blogs or whatever, that 9 times out of 10, the knowledgeable source is a PR person. So it's not, they're going to have to now start digging. and doing old school. So basically, I feel like journalists are now going to have to start doing some old school journalism in order to figure out how what's going on with this case. So to me, it's like a journalist should have been on set if they felt like something was happening instead of calling the PR person. It looks like maybe someone should have gone to set or someone should have gone to the studio, talked to, hey, I understand that there's some issues and problems. Maybe talk to somebody in the cast. Hey, I understand that there's some issues and problems here. Would you like to put a comment on record? But with the PR people, they're the buffer in between there. But anyway, but like I said, this is what Leslie Sloan is saying that she was paid to do to change the story, to make things look peachy keen for their client. Now they're having to step back to say, hey, I'm doing the job that I'm supposed to. I'm out here in this finite amount of time to try to change a story that'll be positive for my client, and I could get sued if the other person feels like I've slighted them. Sloan's effort to change the story were allegedly successful, but as any reporter can attest, a publicist giving additional information on the background. We read that. Now Sloan is among those being sued by Baldoni, while Lively is suing Baldoni's crisis manager, Melissa Nathan, along with publicist Jennifer Abel. So if we're looking at it now, entertainers, this is I'm doing this story outside of what we know and who is right and who is wrong, and if you're team Baldoni, if you're team Lively. I'm doing this story just so that we can just focus on the people in PR. So they're doing their jobs and they're doing their jobs accordingly, because we're going to use their names. We're not going to basically take what's happened and say they did it or they didn't do it, or am I saying that yes, they've done something or they've not done something. I'm just strictly looking at it from the lens of doing your job or not doing your job. And so, as publicists, you want them to do their job. And so, if the publicist for Blake Lively was successful in making a story change to look like it was bad for Justin Baldoni, then that person is doing their job. If the crisis PR people for Justin Baldoni have put out into the media space that Blake Lively is difficult to work with, then they're doing their job. But now you can do your job so well, and if it hurts another entertainer in the business, you could be sued. Are there any protections? Will they be looking and lobbying for protections for this right here? This is going to be interesting how it's going to change the game. And I think how it's going to change, and some of the things that I think is going to change the game is going to be like, let me put my share my screen. As I was just previously talking about, it can lead to several changes. Increased scrutiny of PR tactics. So now there might have to be some sort of Bible or some kind of best practice on how you use your PR tactics. So, an example that I got here is that the allegations against Baldoni's PR team include claims of trying to bury Lively, could lead to increase in scrutiny of aggressive reputation management tactics. So, how far can one go? How far can how far can a PR firm, a PR representative go to aggressively manage someone's reputation? PR professionals may be more cautious about employing such strategies, about fearing back, employing such of those practices, these aggressive reputation management tactics, for fear of backlash and legal repercussions. Who wants to get out here, and if your client A is asked you to help them with bury a story or something like that, are you more, as a PR person, are you more zealous to do that because you're going to be scared that somebody's going to sue you? Will public relations firms come up with a code of conduct? Do they have a code of conduct in the PR firm? That for me is a more interesting question. Do they have a code of conduct? And uh will they be able to adhere to this code of conduct? There should be a big emphasis on transparency and authenticity. Uh, this case highlights the importance of that in public relation. So, in the example giving is that if proven true, because remember, entertainers, we're not Team Baldoni, we're not Team Lively over here. We're just Team Information and Team Truth. If proven true, Baldoni's alleged attempts to manipulate the public opinion could further erode the trust in PR practices. This might lead to a greater emphasis on ethical communication and genuine engagement with the public. So, in other words, a lot of entertainers hide behind a public persona. Basically, what's going to happen is if you don't have a PR person that's going to be willing to help craft a public persona for you, you're now going to have to operate in who you are. And we may find out that you may be a great actor, but you are an ass. Some of your personal characteristics are going to come out. You're not going to be able to hide behind this carefully crafted PR persona of who you are anymore. And so that may have indications for that. That may have implications for that. And I particularly see this in the music business because if you have been around as much long as I have, that there in the business music business they would have artist development, and within this artist development, if there was a certain image that they want to get out for their musicians or for their singers, and the biggest one that I think about is Whitney Houston, how her image was carefully crafted by Clive Davis, that she was like the young black woman who's an everyday woman, and um, what is that image that we have about certain women? Uh, you can take her home to you can marry her off and take her home. There was this carefully crafted image around Whitney Houston, and it was so telling, and particularly when she married Bobby Brown. Everybody was like, oh my gosh, when Whitney started acting her authentic self, everyone was like, oh my gosh, Bobby Brown has messed her up. Bobby Brown has messed up her image because he's a bad boy. He's a this, he's a that. Well, baby, Whitney's from Newark, New Jersey, and that's about as hood as you could be. Are there people who are up echelon there? Yes, but Whitney's Houston, when we saw Whitney Houston in her latter years, that was who she was. That carefully crafted image that she had about, oh, being the nice girl next door. No, Whitney was a smoking, drinking, drug taking young lady. I didn't say she was loose or anything like that, but her morals and values in around taking illegal substances and things like that were top tier. And so it was the antithesis of the image that came out when she did You Give Good Love and all that other stuff. Now, if you were listening to the song she was singing, you could get a clue. But because the way her visual image was crafted, she was like the girl next door or the very sophisticated like young lady who modeled and all of these other different things. So again, a PR person getting in there, and now you're having to, if you're trying to craft her image and it comes at the cost of somebody else's image, can the PR person get sued? Will this case, depending on how this case works out, are PR people in danger of always being sued if something doesn't work out? Mm, mm, mm. Let's continue. It says here in a quote, it says, I feel bad for them because some of the things they were asked to do are things that just about any publicist would have done without question as the veteran publicist, but not now. See, that is one big thing because now who's going to be out here going hard in the paint for your client because you might get sued. You think some of these public relation contracts are going to have some kind of clause in them in regards to suing? Might be. One longtime studio publicist notes, I think a good comms exec will always have plans in place to help protect their client. But now they have to ask themselves if their strategy is leaked, would they still stand by it? Protecting a client and playing defense is one thing. Targeting others proactively is completely another. And we'll continue. I don't have any commentary about that. In addition to the reputational harm and humiliation that might come with the lawsuit, personal publishers are also concerned about racking up financially ruinous legal fees. Studio publicists are typically protected from being sued by their companies, but independent personal publicists or those who work at small firms usually don't have such protections. So basically, if you're in the publicist game with a studio or a big agency, you usually have protections. But people like this Sloan and Melissa Nathan and Jed Wallace that run their own companies and they're small, Stephanie Jones and all of them, baby. This this type of case would be financial ruin for all of them. It says here, usually don't have such protection. Their clients are often multimillionaires with extensive resources, yet they pay as little as $5,000 a month and don't indemnify their representatives in case something goes wrong. The whole relationship is based on trust. Looks like now the contracts are going to have to be different, and the cost per month is going to have to increase because public relations is a business. So now they're going to have to add a cushion in there for the fact that they will get sued. There is zero legal protection for us, and the Baldoni case does make me more afraid, says another longtime personal publicist who I can't pronounce that word, from working at a major agency to launching their own company. This publicist admits he's not proud of things they've done to hide client behaviors in the past. A lot of times we are at the mercy of the people who pay our bills, the publicist says. And like I said, depending on what you're being hired for and how you're supposed to shape public perception about your client. Some of the things will include planting stories and doing all these other things like that. It will cause for you to have to do something that someone will say, "Oh, that's morally reprehensible. I wouldn't do that." But that's part of some of the things you do. You realize that the big case that I think about for the longest time, how they were trying to hide Britney Spears and what appears like she had some emotional and mental health issues, and how they were trying to hide different things. I think they even tried to hide. Remember when she had that shaving her head incident and going out and partying and walking around in gas stations, and everywhere without her shoes and all of these little different things they tried to hide within the quirkiness of who she was until I guess when she shaved her head, they could no longer hide behind the fact that, hey, there might be some emotional and some mental health issues. But they did a good job up until that point of being able to convince the public that, hey, she's just a party girl, and she's out here partying, maybe had one too many to drink, or da 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 da. This is Hollywood. They were hiding it around behind those things. Now they're going to have to get legal protection, which I think that they should. If anything, that this case has shown that you should have some legal protections behind all of this. And if that means that you have to hire an attorney to help you with certain things, then yes, I think that $5,000 a month should increase to about $8,000 or $9,000 a month, $10,000 a month, if they need for you to work on and have a contract state that $10,000 a month for 10 months and have half of it given to you up front. Listen to me. Multiple publicists say they are considering adding legal indemnifications in their future contracts. Smart. so that clients are obliged to protect them. This is something publicists are talking about, but it's not actually a thing. Again, are y'all going to get together and have a code of conduct? Are you going to get together and have some kind of guild? Because actors have it, musicians have it, uh, producers have one, uh, writers have one. All of them have that so that they can be protected within this industry. And this sounds like this case is really a good case study for you all to be able to think about that. So let's continue. The obvious concern is that such a move could result in a loss of business, as there are always plenty of young publicists who are struggling to build their brands and eager to add famous names to their client list without being too picky about contract terms. Again, are you all going to come together and do something like that? Because again, if you have a guild, if you have a thing, those people, before they can do business working in the industry, they have to be part of your guild or have to be part of your thing, and they have to oblige to a certain code of conduct, a code of standards, or something like that. Is this something that you all are going to be thinking about? The boutique agency owner notes that the Baldoni case has also impacted his business in an entirely unexpected way. I had a prospective client say to me, because of this, I don't know if I want to get a publicist right now. I don't want people thinking I have something to hide. Interesting. Uh-oh. This is interesting. That's an interesting take. So let's get back to. So again, we just talked about this, that the lawsuit also raises questions about the legal liabilities of PR professionals. If they have found to have engaged in quote unethical or illegal activities, they could face legal consequences. And in this article, you did have that boutique owner make a statement like that. And he also again made a statement about how people are, it's going to affect their business, or people are not going to want to hire a PR firm, because the public perception would be, oh, you're trying to hide something that you've done. Let's continue. The next bullet point is that it might lead to greater caution and adherence to legal and ethical guidelines in PR practices. I would hope that they would have, remember, we've been talking about this throughout here, that they would have some kind of guild like the rest of them, or codes of conduct and guidelines, or whatever it is, as how they to conduct themselves as being a representative in the PR game. This publicist isn't a crisis manager, a branch of publicity known for aggressive and secretive tactics. So that's what the crisis manager publicist does. But note, such distinctions are not widely understood. So clients don't see the difference between a crisis manager and a publicist. He says, adding with a laugh, they think that's all we do, sit in our ivory towers and look for who we can take down to get our clients ahead. So there is a difference of trying to maintain your public image versus to maintain or to craft a public image of you, versus some crap done went down and now I've got to figure out how I'm going to make it. I'm going to have to figure out what I'm going to have to do to keep whatever image or whatever it is that the client wants intact. All of this isn't to say that the believe the representatives involved in the Lively and Baldoni case are entirely blameless for their fates. Nathan and Abel infamously traded text messages that sounded like they were gleefully plotting to smear Lively. Baldoni's suit insists the duo's idea were never successfully implemented, or in some cases, they were joking. From the very start of the Lively Baldoni shit show, it was PR who kind of made the situation worse, notes a third veteran publicist who believes this case is changing the face of PR. End quote. The fiasco notes a veteran studio publicist, bringing to mind something that publicists are taught at the very start of their careers. All comms folks are taught from day one. Never put anything in writing you wouldn't want on the front page of the New York Times, she says. This has been a reminder of that important rule. And basically, again, this is what got them caught up because, and I don't know if it is because we live in such a digital age, we don't think that people are going to come behind us. But it is so important that if you're going to do things, when you write them down in text, anything in writing can be used against you. So this is why it's important to have meetings, face-to-face meeting, verbal meetings, telephone calls, making sure that your telephone call, it would even be best to have, make everybody know that we're recording these telephone calls so that anything comes back, it's your words. You said this or you didn't say that. So it's I don't have words, but I do agree with that. If you don't want it to be if you don't want it to be published, then you have to make sure that you don't write it down. Never put anything in writing you wouldn't want on the front page of the New York Times. All right. And lastly, one seemingly point of agreement among publicists is that the scandal has embarrassed the profession as a whole. Wow. For instance, the agency owner says that in the wake of leaked text showing Baldoni's rep dissing their client behind his back, calling him pompous and unlikable, one of my publicist friends said their clients are literally saying, please don't talk bad about me to other publicists because clients now think we tell other people how shitty they are. As the veteran personal rep puts it, what was an industry of helping and protecting and elevating people is going to change. The whole sheen has been tarnished in a way that's not justified because there are a lot of great publicists doing a lot of great work out there. And I wouldn't disagree with that. I wouldn't disagree with that. If you have a client that wants their reputation to be seen in a certain way, and they don't care what tactics you use to get that done, that puts a stain on your rep. That puts a stain on the industry. So, what do y'all think about this? I think we will revisit this as well because, like I said, I had started this PowerPoint, and then when I saw this article, I was like, "Yeah, let me sit down and try to see if we can mesh some of these things together." And after the case, and while we're rolling through this case, I am quite sure we will definitely uh, see some major changes in the profession of public relation as it goes for athletes, as it goes for entertainers and writers and CEOs and companies and things like that. We'll definitely see a major change, whatever the outcome of these lawsuits and this case is. All right, people, we do this every week. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Please share this video if you care. Y'all, please tell a friend, tell a kin, tell a coworker, tell that heifer that you can't stand that I'm out here making these videos. I just want to leave on this screen. And as always, people, bye-bye. And if you want to know what that last line says, it says, will PR firms and entertainers ever trust each other again? We will see. We will see. We will come back to this, y'all. Bye bye.